24 hours, maybe 20 hours. We are counting down the final few miles till leg 1 is completed. But we've still got time right now to bring you what's happening on the race course and talk to some of the teams as well. We've got a big team behind me, as always. Now then, first off, we get this question all the time. What's going on with the tracker? A little bit of news for you. The standard system is going to be 6 hours. Every 6 hours, the official position reports go out. That's what the skippers get. That's what you guys get at home as well. But if something more interesting happens, then the race experts put a warning out on Twitter and also update the tracker periodically. But because we're getting near to the shoreline, we're getting near to the finish, the intention is to put the tracker on live, constantly updating. Behind me at the moment, we've got Samuel Piedo, the technical director. Samuel, are we going live with the tracker soon?
Yeah, I think in 5 minutes we're going to...
In about 5 minutes? Yeah. Okay, in about 5 minutes, the tracker will go live for you guys at home. We, of course, have that information now, and I believe we can take a little look at the virtual eye tracker. So this is leg 1, Alicante to Lisbon, and this is where the fleet are right now. If you've been following the race, you'll know that it's been a real tussle through the breeze, through the light winds, downwind, heavy running, then a light wind rounding, past the virtual mark. This is how the fleet look at the moment. Vestas 11th-Hour Racing certainly looking strong. Mafre in second place, and you won't need me to tell you that they have had to fight incredibly hard for that second place. But there is some mini battles going in there as well. We've got AkzoNobel and Dongfeng Race Team now bow to bow, trying to outsmart each other, trying to outpace each other. And we'll be looking a little bit as to what some of those teams might be doing to exploit some speed. But behind them, we've got Sun Hun Kai Scallywag on their own, at least for now, trying to sail what looks like a little bit closer to the breeze than the other boats. And at the back, another major battle as well. Team Brunel and Turn the Tide on plastic with them. Now, we've got the speeds up on the screen at the moment. We've got 13 knots for Team Brunel. We've got just under 13 knots for Turn the Tide on plastic. You can see by the trails there on the virtual eye that Team Brunel are sailing a slightly different line from Turn the Tide on plastic. There isn't too much agreement at the moment, and these are the final few miles coming into the finish. Now, one team that's had a pretty up-and-down race is Dongfeng Race Team, one of the big favourites coming into this year's Volvo Ocean Race. They really struggled in the early stages and got caught into that back group of 4. They broke free and are now looking at a potential podium finish, which would be a very strong score to start off with. And we can now go live to the boat. Let's take a look and see if we can get some pictures up for you. This is coming in from the boat right now, and I believe we've got Richard Edwards, the reporter on board. Richard, how are you? You look pretty tired down there. How's the sailing right now?
I always look tired now, so that's probably no difference there. I have to say, the sailing is actually pretty exciting because ever since the sun rose this morning, we were able to see AkzoNobel, and that's really sort of as the day worn on, they've gone from being near enough on our bow, and they've moved around roughly now to our 3 o'clock. So we've made really good ground on them, and it's almost at the moment as if we're sort of sailing around them on the outside.
Okay, well, we've got a question coming in from Angela. So, asking about whether you can see AkzoNobel. I mean, how close are you? Visual confirmation of the boats?
Visual confirmation, very much so. You can actually near enough read the sails now, whereas this morning, even a few hours ago, that couldn't be done. So great ground has been made, and this crew are so much happier than they were yesterday.
Well, Greg wants to ask, what's been the most challenging part that the crew have experienced of leg 1 so far from your position on board?
I think from my position, because obviously my interaction changes with the crew when they have a good day and a bad day. I'd say obviously leading out of Alicante was euphoric, but obviously that first night when things went a little bit wrong, I spoke with Pascal, the navigator. He was very disappointed, as was Charles, obviously, and they just kept saying how disappointed they were, and the crew were quieter, but they fought for 4 days. And I spoke to Horace, the Chinese bowman on board Dongfeng Racing, and he was very disappointed. He was very down. But then they discovered after a few days, especially after that slowdown around Porto Santo, where they lost ground again and fell back into that back 4, again, into this morning, they'll break free again, and suddenly third is on the horizon. What can I say? You have a lot happier crew here.
And how much has that mood sort of changed for you? Because I've got to say, we saw some of the videos coming in, some of the pictures, and we got the idea that, you know, struggling at the back, it was a pretty big test for the team. Is it a real stark contrast?
I'd say it's almost complete 360, because yesterday you have Charlie, you have Pascal, they're on deck and they're wandering around and they're looking off the boat. There's a bit of head scratching because they don't quite understand what's happened with their plan. And it's amazing from an OBR or onboard reporter's perspective when you don't approach somebody because you just want to leave them alone. You don't want to ask them about something that's so obvious. Today, it's obvious that AkzoNobel are within our sights, and therefore we had a good chat. And the guys were happy to talk about those disappointments of the last few days, but now very much focused, making jokes again. So the mood has completely switched on this boat.
And we're getting near to the finish line in Lisbon. You know, the miles are sort of ticking down. Has anyone sort of spoken to you about, you know, how far they feel that they can claw the leaders back in, how close they can make it?
I think the general feeling is that Vestas, 11th-Hour and Mapfre are probably gone. However, circumstances which had unfolded previously after speaking to Pascal, the navigator, he very much feels that there's a lot of light airs coming into Lisbon, and that could really slow the front runners down, and therefore that gives him a little bit of confidence, and the team here a bit of confidence that things could change completely. But at the moment, they're very much focused on fighting AkzoNobel.
And have they let you in at all on their plans on how it is they're going to outsmart AkzoNobel?
That's every sailor's secret, I think. I think apart from well, looking at the sail plans look very similar. They insist it's down to good trimming and good helming. What can I say?
Well, Greg wants to know, will everybody be on deck for the finish?
That's a difficult question, actually. I think that's very much dependent on the results, as always. Disappointment will come in fourth, but euphoria will come with third. So it's always difficult to say, but I'd like to think that everyone will be on deck, and normally that's the case. And they're a pretty good-spirited bunch on here, so what can I say? You would have thought so.
I'm so pleased that everybody's uplifted. I mean, from your viewpoint as the reporter roaming around downstairs, is it sometimes quite lonely for people like Pascal and Charles who've got to make those decisions when they don't go right?
I think so, and they very much spend their time sitting at the nav station, sometimes just staring at each other because things don't go right. And I spoke, interestingly, with Charles earlier this morning, and he said the difference between this race and the last race is in the last race, it was a surprise if Dongfeng achieved anything, whereas now it's an expectancy, and that weighs on the shoulders, obviously. So Charles is very much aware of that, and you can see that in the eyes. There is a certain loneliness which comes along with having the responsibility with those two guys to, you know, bring this yacht to success.
All right, well, Richard, thank you so much for dialing in. I mean, we should just say that we were hoping to talk to some of the sailors on board, but of course, I gather they're working pretty hard right now.
I think they're all asleep, to be quite honest with you, Niall. I haven't seen any for a few hours now.
All right, Richard, we're going to let you get on. We'll see you at the finish line.
Cool, thank you very much. Have a good day.
Okay, so there you go, a little bit of a taste of life on board Dongfeng Race Team. At the moment, in third, trying to hold on to that podium position. Now, something that you might have been able to see from the footage there was an outrigger. This is something they've got on the boat they're using for the sails. And as this final dash into the finish line is largely becoming all about speed, we thought that it would be a good idea to sort of take a little bit of a look at that. So we've got Conrad Colman here, as always, our resident expert. Conrad, the outriggers, where do we use them? How do they work?
Well, outriggers, the little black sticky outy poles that you can see in most of the footage coming off the boats. I've been having an especially close look, and I'd like to share some of my findings here. So let's have a look. We can see Horace standing out on the end of one of these outriggers, Chinese sailor on Dongfeng that Richard was just talking about, and he is pulling the leech line. Whew! Thank goodness he wasn't standing on the end of the pole right then. Anyway, so we call these outriggers. Some people call these jockey poles, but that's stupid because jockeys ride horses. So we'll never again refer to them as jockey poles. So Going back to our outriggers, you can see here that Horace is standing, hanging onto the shrouds, so the cables that hold up the mast. So he is right all the way outside the boat, and that's where this pole is sticking out. And the reason for that is twofold. If we have a look at the diagram of the boat, this is actually the outline of the Volvo 65. I hope that the Far Yacht Design Studio won't have any problems with me showing this to you. But anyway, they're sticking out there, and he was using the J0, so that's coming off the bowsprit. Oh heavens, it's got something. Oh, goodness me, got something wrong with my telestrator there. There we go, J0. So that sail, big red sail there, is nicely trimmed out to the side. Maybe they've got the wind in reality coming from about here, but because the boat is sailing really fast with the apparent wind, that's something I'll be explaining to you later, it's sort of coming there. Now, that means that they can be sailing off the wind or with the wind on a beam reach with the sails out, so they get a really powerful position, but not looking like a sack, which is what they would do if they eased the sail without that outrigger in place. And that really round shape that they would have otherwise is really powerful, but also really draggy. So for these boats that go so fast, that generate so much power out of the apparent wind, you need to have a flatter sail and to be able to hold it off the side of the boat.
Okay, well, there you go. Some insight as to exactly how these outriggers work and how the teams are using them. And we're learning a lot about what makes these boats go fast as the race continues. And one boat that we're keeping a very good eye on here is Vestas 11th-Hour Racing, because they have really shown some incredible form on leg one. Now, remember, they did win the last leg of the last edition. So in some sense, Conrad was saying this morning, it's kind of like back-to-back wins for Charlie Enright. And we dialed in, and just before coming on air, we spoke to Tom Johnson, and I asked him whether they're thinking about that finish line yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's thinking it, but no one's really talking about it too much yet. We're all just focusing on our boat and our performance, and making sure that we're sailing this thing as fast as we can, all the time. It has a good feeling inside, but not too much talk about it. Just get the job done. We still got to cross the line. Everyone just knows everyone's just doing their job, and everyone just does their job well on board. We should be okay.
What has this been down to?
I think everyone is making sure that we're sailing the boat as fast as we can all times, never relaxing, never just kind of taking the back seat and going, we're in front, let's just chill out a little bit here. It's just make sure we're sailing as fast as we can. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's thinking it, but no one's really talking about it too much yet. We're all just focused.
Well, there you go. That was Tom Johnson on board Vestas 11th-Hour Racing. And, well, the question is are they going to do what it looks like they're going to do right now? Because we're on to that final little sprint into Lisbon, but there is a bit of something going on out there. The weather's not 100%. There are a few miles. Anything can happen. Conrad, we were sort of debating this before we came on air. What's your final answer? Are Vestas 11th-Hour Racing going to do it?
Are they going to do it? Yes, they are. They're going to win. I'm sorry. Did you want more? Okay, well, let's have an in-depth look. Diggers, if you can drop me into my computer here, I will explain it all to you. This is roughly where they are now. You can see that Vestas is nicely punched out in the lead. You've got Matt Frey tucked in just behind them. However, you can see this squiggle in front of the boats. That's me doing analysis of the routing of what's coming up. That's me overlaying the forecast, the predicted weather that's coming up along with the theoretical speed of the boat, and it allows me to create this fantastic diagram. Now, what I'd like to do is show you that in 10 hours time, the boats are going to be here, that's Vestas, and here, that's Mapfre. Now, look at where the wind is coming from. You can see that the wind here is coming in this direction for Vestas 11th-Hour Racing, and it's coming in this direction for Mapfre. And so that is a 30-degree split. You've got about 0.46 degrees for the true wind angle for Vestas in this position, and about 70 or 0.70 for Mapfre. Now, that is a 30-degree split, and that's going to force Mapfre to sail off in this direction until they get the new wind that will allow them to tack back. And that is just going to be so painful. Now, so that's reason one why Vestas 11th-Hour Racing is going to win. Reason two is when they're approaching Lisbon. So we're winding forward into the future here. We've got a position here at the approach to the River Tage, Vestas 11th-hour here, and Myant-Best here. Now, look at the wind again on this route projected into the future. You can see that the wind is coming in here. That means that down the River Tage, we've got really strong channel of winds, and so they were going to be sailing admittedly upwind, but in really strong winds, and they're not going to have a problem. However, if we follow the route of Myant-Best, and whether they come in across the top of that TSS or in underneath, you can see that the wind here is dropping off, and it's turning, and it's turning, and it's turning, and it's dying. And that's because there are big mountains here. Lisbon is known for being a hilly spot, and so if you have the wind coming in from the north, it's going to die in the river here. So two great opportunities. One is a wind shift that's going to really favor the leaders, and the other one is the fact that the wind again shifts around to the north, gets blocked by the mountains, and I think, well, let me go out on a limb here. I'm going to say that Vestas 7th-hour Racing is going to win by 4 hours.
Right, there you go. Okay, so a definitive answer. I always like definitive answers from Conrad because it means we can hold him to them. 4 hours, the win for Vestas 11th-hour Racing. Now, we have just had a question come in from Steffi via Facebook asking what the difference is between an outrigger and a reaching strop. To be 100% certain, I'm not really too sure. I get lost in so many different sailing terminologies for the same thing, but I tell you what, I'm going to put Conrad on that and he'll come back to you later. We have got 9 months, so you will hear from us. Now then, Vestas 11th-hour Racing, they're kind of hoping that the finish line can't come soon enough. But one boat that's locked into a battle at the back is Turn the Tide on Plastic, trying to hold off race veteran Bauer Becking on Team Brunel. And I spoke to Dee just a few moments ago and asked her whether she was actually hoping for a few more miles.
You're dead right, and you knew I was going to be thinking that way. We're running out of racetrack to make a difference. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a drag race now. We've got Brunel breathing down our necks, which has been fantastic. But we were hoping to drag in Scallywag back again. But as you say, the mileage is diminishing quickly. So opportunities are few and far between now.
How hard are you guys having to work to hold back, you know, a race veteran like Bauer Becking?
I know, and you almost sound surprised now. How dare you? It's been great. It's been really good. From the Gibraltar Straits, there were 4 of us in sight, all driving out of the Straits. And then we kind of hung out together for a whole day, which was really interesting. And everyone took different angles. We separated a bit, and Dongfeng and Scallywag took the higher angle, and they gained from that. And so we stayed with who we were with, and we've basically been stuck together ever since. The team are just really coming together, working really hard and enjoying it, which to me is really important. A happy boat's going to end up being a fast boat, and we're learning all the time. Yes, we've made a few mistakes on some sail changes. It took us a little while to find some setups, but having the boats alongside, we've now learned that, and we're amending our files all the time so that those decisions become a lot quicker going forward. So it's definitely only going to get better, and I'm really looking forward to spending a lot more time at sea with these guys. There is a potential light patch, a ridge. We've all got a tack at some point, and then we've got the dreaded float off as we get into the entrance of Lisbon and the river there. So there's still opportunities, and we all know from yacht racing, and especially the Volvo Ocean Race, that it's definitely not over till you cross the line.
Okay, well, Dee, I know you took a break from helming to come down and talk to us, so I'll let you get back to the racing. Good luck. See you in Lisbon.
Cool, thanks you. Bye.
So that was earlier with Dee Kafari, and there you go. We've got Vestas 11th-hour Racing looking pretty strong. We've got Dongfeng on the comeback, and we've got Turn the Tide on Plastic trying to hold back the race veteran Bauer Becking, his 8th Volvo Ocean Race. Now then, at the top of the show, I mentioned the tracker. Samuel is the technical director. Are we going live? We're live. Yes. Okay, there we go. So the tracker is now live for you all the way up until the last boat comes into Lisbon. So if you want to know where they are, who's looking good, who's losing out, you can check in minute by minute. As the boats come into Lisbon, we will be there. We're going to be bringing you the arrivals live via Facebook. We're going to be coming in, coming out. As the action unfolds, we're going to be talking to the skippers. We're going to be meeting them as they come ashore. We're going to be looking at the winning moves, what's paid, what's not, what the lessons are learned. And it all starts tomorrow at 700 UTC with our quick fix. And then in the afternoon, we have got so much to bring you. And we'll see you then.